If you're looking for a way to get your students excited about writing during the month of December and their attention span is getting slimmer and slimmer as we near the winter holidays, stay tuned. I've got a great activity that you can do with your elementary class using the Elf on the Shelf. Hi, my name's Molly, and I'm a 5th grade teacher who helps teachers just like you streamline your literacy block so you can get to all of your reading groups. And I've also taught kindergarten and 1st grade, and this activity can be used kindergarten all the way through 5th grade. And I know that because I've tested it out in K1 and now 5th grade. And I thought when I switched to 5th grade, surely the kids wouldn't be interested on the Elf on the Shelf, but they totally were. And so I had to kind of revamp the way that they were writing about and to the elf to make it applicable to older kids. Now, this activity doesn't necessarily have to just be for Christmas. I know that our students celebrate a variety of winter holidays, so I like to use the Elf on the Shelf in a way that is not just designated to Christmas. Now, a lot of kids will attach that meaning to that, and that's okay. That's for them to do, not for me to do as the teacher. This activity has been a fan favorite all the years that I've taught, and I never regretted doing it. I actually would be sad if I couldn't do it one year. So how it works is the Elf on the Shelf in my classroom will appear on the first day back after Thanksgiving break. So if this falls on December, great. If it's the end of November still, when you go back to school, that doesn't matter. I prime the kids by saying that there's going to be a special guest that comes, and yes, I still say that even in 5th grade, and get them kind of curious about what's going to happen after they come back, making them want to come back to school as well, because, breaks are hard for kids, a lot of our kids, and so if they can have a reason to be excited when they come back to school, then the Elf on the Shelf goes somewhere in the classroom. I try really hard to move the elf every single day, and I know that's the part that holds a lot of teachers back. They don't want to have to remember, and they think they have to curate all of these really amazing scenes for the elf, and I've had some that I've done over the years, but I couldn't keep that up personally. I just didn't plan far enough ahead, so I would just make sure I moved the elf. Now, sometimes you forget to move them, and that's okay. You can just say, you know what, they probably noticed somebody not doing their job and they will move at another time. My class elf is named Winky, and I would say 90% of the time Winky moves before the students arrive every morning. I'm not perfect though, so sometimes I forget. So part of tethering this into writing is the kids can have a Elf on the Shelf or classroom elf, so you're not stealing that name, journal, and they can write what the elf did that day, and they can write all the facts about the elf and get to know the elf as well. That's probably more aligned with K1 too, but I think 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders would like that too, making a profile. You could even change it so that older kids were still doing this activity, but maybe they're making, like they have an outline of a cell phone or something, and they're putting down all the things that an Instagram profile would have for the Elf on the Shelf. Just something to make it super fun and relatable to our kids. Even though we're not promoting them to have social media, we know that they know what that screen looks like. So 5th graders love to just write notes to the elf, and that is one way that I got them to work on writing during Daily 5 using this as an activity. Every day after the elf has appeared, they are allowed to write the elf a letter, and I've even had students before make little mailboxes out of paper, and they created the whole North Pole scene just with things we had in the classroom, and they would write a note to Winky every single day, sometimes a teeny tiny note, or they would write one on notebook paper. And it was really fun to read their notes and see what they would tell the elf, and then also sometimes actually write back to those students. I personally really like doing. Sometimes though, in kindergarten and 1st grade, you might leave a class note for everyone from the elf. I did that a lot when I first started teaching. On the smartboard, I would leave a note from the elf, and then my students would get a chance to write them back during Daily 5 if they had those skills, or they could draw a picture if that's where they were developmentally. And my kiddos really looked forward to that. If I left a note up from Winky, They were so engaged and wanted to get to writing right away. I have lots of footage of my elf on the shelf over the years. I just love taking pictures and seeing what the elf was up to, and also a great reminder for you as a teacher to remember the cool things that you did with your elf on the shelf so you're not reinventing the wheel every single time. Having those photos, I go back in. I actually made a photo album inside of my phone and titled it Elf on the Shelf so that I wouldn't forget. I put him back in the box at the end and store him in the closet, and that is where he goes for the rest of the year. You can decide how you want your elf on the shelf strategy to go. I think including this into daily 5, work on writing, is a great way to get them creative writing and actively engaged in something that everybody's working towards. Another thing that I would do with my students, and I still do, is I will tell them they're working towards a reward every single week because it is the month of Christmas. And again, not everybody celebrates Christmas, I know, but it's fun to incorporate that as a way to get them to do their jobs and have a really memorable December at school before we head off to winter break. So in the years past, I've done things like fuse beads. The kids would work their way up to that as an activity at the end of the week. I always have an iron in my classroom, and I have all the fuse bead sets, and they can make holiday themed fuse beads. I iron them for them, and they get to take them home as a little gift. We've also made ornaments before that the elf dropped off for us. We've decorated cookies as well. That's a fun one. No matter what age I've taught, they all love that one. The ornament one and the fuse beads. They've been really great in kindergarten and first grade. And sometimes I will give them a you pick. So if there was like a choice board, and they could pick from a few different things that they wanted to earn from the elf, they could vote as a class on that. So trying to make the activity something hands-on and engaging that we're doing as a whole class versus perhaps just watching a movie, because I know that can be really tempting too, and there's no shame in doing that. I've done that before as well. But I like them to get to do an activity that they don't normally get to do and have something to look forward to at the end of the week. It is really motivating and has worked every single year. I don't think there's been a year yet where the elf didn't bring them something every week because of their behavior. They were just so ready to get that reward and please the elf, if you will, especially the younger students who still have that sense of magic and belief and that sort of thing during the holiday times. I hope this activity helps give you some ideas for daily 5 work on writing as a way to spice it up, spruce it up, however you want to say it, for the holiday season. Remember that work on writing is a creative writing time and it's not our writing instruction. So this is a great opportunity for you to get your kids excited about writing and engaged in a class activity that everybody's partaking in together. And I think you'll be really surprised by how high the engagement is if you try this activity. And you don't have to use a classroom elf. You could get any kind of object, like a different type of stuffed animal, an old Beanie Baby, something like that. It doesn't have to be during the holiday time. It can be some kind of classroom helper that's looking over your class and they get to write too. I've used a tattle turtle before. I had an old McDonald's toy from when I was a kid of a turtle, a stuffed turtle, and the kids could go talk to the tattle turtle when they had something to tell. So Elf on the Shelf is just a seasonal item. It's really fun to have, and the kids will be really shocked that you have one at school and that your elf, like mine is Winky, visits them every year. And I've had students, when I taught the younger grades, come back in and visit because they wanted to see Winky. They even wrote extra letters once they were not in my class anymore. And to me, that's an overall win as a classroom teacher, getting to see kids coming back, visiting, and sharing a memory with you, and also still being so excited to write a letter to someone that they cared about while they were in my classroom. I hope I inspired you in some way to get this activity going. And remember, in the description box below, I will link the Classroom Elf writing journal that you can use in your own classroom, that I use no matter what grade I'm teaching. It's really fast. It's prepped for you. All you have to do is print and staple, and then it can go home right before winter break, and it's a nice memento for parents to keep if they are so inclined to do so. And the kids will always remember the elf on the shelf in the classroom. If somebody brings it up, it will spark a memory, and they'll remember the letters they wrote inside of that journal. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.